Thanks to you guys getting me a PS4, so many arigatos for that once again, I've finally been able to play The Last of Us. And it made me realize, by comparison, even more than I was already convinced, how awesome Breath of the Wild is. Don't worry, no plot details on either game. You are safe to watch if you haven't played them. And I want to make clear, I'm going to be very critical of just one aspect of The Last of Us. As a whole, I loved the game. It's just got at least one glaring flaw. In The Last of Us, collecting items is an important gameplay mechanic. Most of the ammunition and supplies you need are just sort of scattered around the environment, usually next to walls, and some are the only way to purchase upgrades both for the player character and the player's weapons. Collecting items is not a mechanic the player should ignore, even for a short time. Because once you leave an area, you can never go back, and whatever collectibles were there are permanently missed on that playthrough of the game. This is footage of myself playing the game naturally, as the game has taught me is the optimum way to play the game. You drag your face on every single wall, 2 or 3 times just to be safe, and stare at the edges of the screen, making sure you don't miss when the collectible pickup prompt shows up. This is what around, half of my playthrough looked like. It is boring! The whole time, I just wanted to get this over with so I could reach the next story or combat segment, at which point my brain would finally be engaged with something. This is not a good way to play The Last of Us. I assume it's not how the developers expect players to play The Last of Us. But this is factually, without a doubt, the optimum way to play The Last of Us. The game's mechanics have been built in such a way that this playstyle is correct. I assume the devs expected players to just not care, I guess. They expected players to grab whatever they happen to see when they walk in the room, and then immediately leave that room, taking up much less time. But that's not thorough enough. You will miss collectibles if you only grab what you see. They often blend in with the environment and don't stand out very much. So you'd better comb every square inch. And even when you find a collectible, there's not much joy to be had. You found one of the hundreds of triangle prompts. Then you press triangle. The end. It's a quick time event, but they've taken out the quick, the time, and the event. Now, that's a game that does collectibles completely wrong. But Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild, this is a game about collecting things, and collecting things is awesome. Everywhere you go, you can just visually see collectibles all over the place. They're usually colorful to be visible from a distance and make shiny sparkles to let you know they're there. Many of them are living animals and bugs, which you have to actually sneak up on and hunt for. No matter where you go, you will always see something interesting nearby, and you will know, there's a thing I can grab there. And that's only for the trivial items, the equivalent of finding a bag of sugar in The Last of Us. And yes, sugar is a collectible in The Last of Us. You can't eat it, it's useless. But the equivalent of the important collectibles, the upgrade collectibles, are done so goddamned well. Meet the Koroks. In The Last of Us, you found important collectibles by standing on them. Being in the vicinity of the collectible was the end of your quest to obtain it. Oh, but with Koroks, you can stand directly on top of the Korok, suffocating it under your boots, and still have no idea it's there, and then walk right past. Because Koroks demand something more. Most Koroks are locked behind not a puzzle exactly, but a mystery. You ever just find a hole in the ground and you're like, what's this? What's this hole? It has to exist for a reason. Something dug this hole deliberately. What is this? Breath of the Wild asks the player not to walk everywhere in the environment, but to observe that environment. You will never know a Korok is there until you figure out a Korok is there yourself. See something that stands out and think to yourself, what is this? Then figure out what it is. There's a hole in the ground, it's at the bottom of a hill. At the top of the hill, there's a boulder. A hole-sized boulder. Put the boulder in the hole. And the moment you've put that boulder in the hole, you have sent a very specific message to the game. I know what's going on here. It is by sending that message, by making that statement through your in-game action, that triggers the game to respond. Okay, you understand. Here is your Korok seed. In The Last of Us, you find collectibles by being where the collectible is. In Breath of the Wild, you find collectibles by observing the game world and recognizing patterns. That is how you build a game about finding stuff. It's not about just having stuff to find. It's about building an engaging way to obtain it. Do you guys agree? Disagree? Do Koroks numb your brain? And did The Last of Us engage you with its collectibles? Let me know in the comments. And of course, let me know how much this video numbed your brain down there too. Arigato gozaimasu desu for watching, and get out of my house.